6 hours we have been through in western Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma. Of course, the biggest thing to note was that EF-3 tornado that hit Springdale yesterday morning. Damage from EF-1 to EF-2, then up to EF-3, and then it quickly dissipated. It's hard to see, though, because it was at nighttime. You get flashes of lightning, and you try to look for power flashes as it's hitting power lines, but nighttime tornadoes are very hard to visually see. Of course, with the radar, it doesn't matter if it's night or daytime because it's looking at wind, it's looking at raindrops, it's looking at debris. But sometimes it's a little bit easier to capture when you're actually watching that tornado as it presses on through. This picture came in from Lupita in Springdale. This is from Oriole Street. Noticing that tornado right in here, it was upgrading from about an EF-2 to an EF-3. But since it was at night and all we can see is the damage, we wanted to make a 3D model of what the tornado looked like. And so we've been using our system today, working on this for you, so you can actually see as if you were following this tornado from right behind it as it tracked to northwest Arkansas, how it changed size from a smaller tornado to a larger, stronger tornado. So let's go through this. First, this is a bird's eye view. This is the path. Here's Fayetteville, here's Springdale. Fayetteville's city boundaries and right about here, so we just barely got clipped in on the north side of Fayetteville, just north of the Fulbright Expressway near the Northwest Arkansas Mall. Here's Johnson, you got that sliver of the city lines. And then once you cross into Springdale, that's where we had probably the most damage, all the way past the airport as you head towards Emma Street. But let's go into the view of the tornado itself. Go ahead and zoom in. All right, here we go. So what we're gonna do is here's the visualization tool, 3D model, and over here on the left, we're gonna have a couple of things. We're gonna show you the damage that we saw. We're gonna keep the timestamp up because that's very important. We'll explain. And then we'll show the category of tornado and its wind speed and the location that we're talking about. So what happened first, about 4:02, 4:03, before this tornado touched down, we were noticing a little bit of rotation. Meteorologist Zach Scott, meteorologist Michelle Trotter, they were watching the storm for us. That rotation finally started spinning up enough that it caused a tornado. We saw the birth of that tornado actually from the Malco camera there on the north, or the west side of the building, I should say. As this tornado started to wrap up, here's the map. We've got the parking lot. Here's the Malco Theater. I'll move this off towards the side just a little bit. Here's the theater. This thing started in the parking lot, and its inflow, as it's wrapping this around, actually sucked the glass out of the front of the building. This was still just an EF0, 74-mile-per-hour winds. We're gonna go minute by minute. 1 minute later, this thing crosses over that strip mall. You know where the Tzatziki's is, Smitty's Garage, Shogun's. This is what it looked like. Here's Shogun's, you can see it there in the distance. Here's that parking lot in between. Smitty's Garage is there on towards the left. Here's some light poles that were completely down and a little bit of damage around here. Still an EF0 as it went up that hill and into the Northwest Arkansas Mall. Here's the JCPenney there on the north side of Fayetteville. The tornado just barely clipped the corner of the JCPenney. And then after the Northwest Arkansas Mall, there's a hill right here. It actually goes down. And over around this area, we've got that cell phone tower. A lot of folks knocked out cell service there for a while. I know they were working yesterday on trying to get something temporary up. But once it went down that hill, it upgraded to EF2. Wind speeds at 112 miles per hour. So this is a minute later, 4:06. This is Main Drive. So if you guys know Wright's Barbecue, you've got the Johnson Police Department over here towards the left. Right here is that Golden Corral. We've got the subway here at the corner. This thing crosses Main Drive, causes some damage there. I believe there's some storage units that it caused damage to. You can see some of the damage here on the left. So we're just up the way from Golden Corral. Then it tracks farther towards the north, goes up the hill, and on US 71 there's the hill, and then you've got Brashear's Furniture, and there on the left, of course, you got Outback Steakhouse. Outback was fine. Of course, there was a little bit of damage that was spread onto the parking lot, but at Brashear's Furniture, this is what it looked like inside the storm after that tornado passed through. As it was going up that hill, it weakened to an EF1, 407 now, over 100 miles per hour. Here's US 71, so we're right next, major US highway, right? Then it crosses over, that was the Springdale Country Club. So it kind of clips there on the northwest side of the country club and the golf courses, stayed away from the main house, the main building, as far as we know. And then it went into residential areas, still in EF1. Erica Thomas was here earlier for our newscast. This is Fairway Drive, EF1 damage, getting close to EF2. This thing quickly ramped up, though, as it moved through that neighborhood and pressed north and east, and quickly ramped up in 1 minute. Went from an EF1 to an EF-3, 143 miles per hour. This is at its peak. Here's the George Elementary School. So yesterday, you probably noticed, we pushed it out, all the news outlets pushed it out. EF-2 tornado, at least, confirmed in Springdale. And that was the case as the National Weather Service. They started where the tornado began. They try to do that every time. They start where it began, and they try to go towards endpoints. So you know exactly the boundaries of where the tornado was at all times. Well, at first, it was only EF-1, EF-2, right? So they said at least an EF-2, but we're not done with our surveying. As soon as they got to George Elementary School, here it is. Here's the building. The gymnasium's on the back side. Good thing that this tornado, I mean, if you're trying to look for any positives, if it went even just 100 or 200 yards towards the east, you would have hit the main building of the elementary school. Kids were able to return to classes today, but they're on the west side of the building. There's the gymnasium, and you got some of the sports complexes there on the west side. That's where it struck. But with that damage, to do that, you got to be an EF-3. Winds estimated at 143 miles per hour. This is 409. 1 minute later, it continues as an EF-3. This is where you've got Don Tyson, where they had to shut it down for a long time yesterday. You're anywhere near Powell Avenue, Turner area as you're there in the heart of Springdale, still an EF-3. Then it hits the Nilfisk plant. This is where I was yesterday, and we had more crews there today. If you take the whole long building, you can see the whole building on the map here. It hit there the west side of the building. So now we're looking at a different angle. It looks more like on the east side, but this is west side, east side. Complete damage and destruction there. This was the receiving end. This side was the shipping end. They had actually just received a huge shipment of more supplies. You know, businesses have had such a hard time, of course, past 2 years, but we got pandemic, then we got supply chain issues. And finally, when they had a big supply thing coming on in, of course, that now gets damaged. And some of it has tornado damage, but a lot of it has water damage, because once you lift it off the roof, guys, remember we had 1-2 inches of waterfall just all over this area. So this is the roof and the siding as it's all collapsed. This was some of the strongest damage from George Elementary School to the Nilfisk plant. What was really weird, though, about this tornado is here's 412. So you're talking about Robinson Avenue. Once it moved off the building, there are some extra industrial buildings here closer to the road. There was damage. I think there's a used car lot. There was a lot of cars, you know, had the sticker there. A lot of the windows were blown out, but there wasn't as much damage to the buildings that were nearby. As soon as it hit the Nilfisk plant, it started to rapidly decrease in its strength. You'll notice behind the tornado, as it's going kind of into the screen, there's the Springdale Airport. Once it crosses onto airport property, it really weakened. Here on the southeast side, there are a couple extra hangars. I mean, there's hangars all the way around, but it only clipped that south and east side of the hangars, and you can see some of the damage. Not as bad as the Nilfisk plant, though. This goes down into EF-1. Wind speeds now to 105, 411. Moves away from the airport, continues to head north and east towards Emma Street. Here's Emma Street. Once it crossed Emma Street, it was pretty much done. As it was crossing the street, it was down to an EF-0. We don't have as much damage here from the Springdale Airport. You head north and east there towards Emma Street. I mean, Emma Street, there caps the airport on its north side. But once you got here, and notice how you've got a couple empty spaces, so that's also good. But we had some shingle damage, so really closer to EF-1 and then down to an EF-0. After it crossed Emma Street, it was gone. This thing was only on the ground for 8 minutes. And to be honest, there was only one really good radar scan with that debris. That came in at 4:09 when it was already at the George Elementary School. Radar scans only come in every 5 minutes. So that's when we got our best scan. Tornado warning is in effect. The next time we get a radar scan was after the tornado had gone, but the debris was still in the air. So we saw rotation and some debris, but it was more lofted. In fact, some of this debris, we've got some of the terrain here. Every once in a while, you'll notice some blue. I think it's going to come inside. There you go. See that wave? I have our, what's it called? I have our tool for water kind of on its enhanced mode. And so I got it a little too strong. But those are waves. Those are the southern edges of Beaver Lake. But you've got some small hills here on the northeast side of Springdale. We were noticing on the other side of these hills, debris just flown into the air, getting close to Hickory Creek. That's right on the edge of Beaver Lake. We were noticing some debris still being lofted up into the air. So the tornado had stopped being on the ground, but it still threw some debris here and there. Because when you're talking about EF-3 tornado, some of the debris can go well over 10,000 feet into the air, and then it's stuck up there for a little bit as the whole storm's pushing it. So it pushes up, pushes away. Crazy stuff. We also wanted to take a look at how many EF-3 tornadoes do we get? What's the average? Are these things common? They're not common. They've happened certainly here, but you don't get them every year. In fact, the last time, I've kind of had this split. We've got Northwest Arkansas, River Valley. I will say probably the most memorable EF-3 that we've had recently was the 1996 tornado hitting Fort Smith. Even stronger than that though, that EF-4 to EF-5 Altus, that's where we got really hit. But the last time we had a huge population center really hit was Fort Smith. Here on the left-hand side, we've got Northwest Arkansas. What's interesting though is look at some of these dates. Centerton, lots of subdivisions up. You got Bentonville West High School. Last time we had an EF-3 tornado was back in 2006. There's been so much growth that a lot of these areas that the tornado hit, there's farmland, not much there. So there's really not much damage. We've had several tornadoes across Benton County when you look over the past 60, 70 years. But with the recent growth, now it would be devastating destruction. But back then, not as bad as we were still growing. Prairie Grove, we had one in 1999. The last time we had a EF-3 tornado tear through Springdale, and it went right through Springdale, was 1970. Springdale looks a lot different today than it did in 1970. Bentonville the last time, I believe we actually had one on the north side in 2006. I might have been included that in Centerton. Kind of went to Centerton and then towards the north side of Bentonville. But the last time we hit the heart of Bentonville was 1954. Bentonville, of course, looks a lot different. Here on the right-hand side, more of these tornadoes. Clarksville, we got clocked in with an EF-3. If you remember back to 2011, 2011 was not a good year for us. We had lots of other tornadoes too, but here's the two EF-3 tornadoes that we got. Remember, Altus actually EF-4, EF-5. But then Clarksville, last time we got hit was 1980, beyond the 2011. So we've actually had two in Clarksville. So this is just some extra data. On top of that, a lot of folks keep asking, what about the River Valley? What about our tornado? We didn't get an EF-3. We didn't get an EF-2. We got an EF-1. The National Weather Service is still working on this. But I tell you what, storm damage can be very difficult in two different ways. What I mean by that, the EF-1 northwest of Clarksville is very difficult to analyze because it's hitting a very rural area. You head on 103 as you're headed towards the Batson area. We've got Harmony, Arkansas. This is where it struck. But where it struck, it's pretty rural. So they're trying to look at different trees that they've seen that are down. Numerous trees are down. They've had a couple chicken houses that were damaged, some roofs, and I'm getting this straight from the sheriff's office. I personally have not seen the damage in person yet, but a couple roofs were damaged on some residential homes. Some of the shingles were taken off, but nothing like we saw in Springdale, thank goodness. But it's hard to tell where it stopped. We did see the debris in the radar beam because there's some twigs, and to be honest, some of the leaves are starting to come back, right? Especially on those Bradford pear trees. Even those leaves get sucked up, and then you can really see that debris. It looks different than a raindrop, and so that's how the radar knows. But this thing went into the mountains pretty quickly. It stayed away from Clarksville. We still got a lot of heavy rain and lightning and thunder and gusty winds in Clarksville, but we had an EF-1. The National Weather Service is still working on that survey as we speak. It seems like recently they've been releasing them close to about 10 o'clock at night. Once they get all their eggs in one basket, they come together and say, okay, what is our official statement? And it's not just the rating. They've got to talk about it was this wide at this point, this wind speed was this at that point, and what's the map? And they create a map as well. Crazy. That's all just one storm system that continues to press east. We still got some severe weather, it looks like, in Pennsylvania. Earlier we had a tornado warning in North Carolina, but the whole system is pressing east. Here in the backside, we've got some pockets of energy as everything's wrapping up. But see that one coming into Memphis and eventually Nashville? We had that earlier today. It's going to re-loop here in a second. It may not have it long enough. But you see some of that white and blue? We had snow showers earlier, mainly in northwest Arkansas and some of us in the mountains. In fact, it was kind of a good burst for some of us. We didn't get as much in the River Valley, although just north of Clarksville we had a little bit too. Some raindrops and snowflakes mixing in. This is the edge of the clouds. We're about to be done. We got sunset here eventually soon. Some of us are going to get a beautiful sunset, I think, across northwest Arkansas and the River Valley as the clouds are pushing out. We should have mostly clear skies tonight. With those clear skies, we're going to get pretty chilly though. Temperatures will drop into the 20s and 30s. Freeze warning is in effect everywhere. You got the purple color. That's all northwest Arkansas. Almost all the River Valley except Logan County and Scott County, we've got frost advisories in place. So it's going to get chilly. We need to warm up though, and we will. We're in the 30s and 40s right now. I'm just kind of showing you the forecast real quick. Tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day, and I think we deserve it. I think we need it, especially for the cleanup crews. It's been tough because yesterday it was misty, it was windy. We had wind chills in the 30s all day. Today, we've had temperatures in the 30s and 40s all day. And then we had flurries. My goodness, right? Tomorrow, no flurries. We'll be in the sun, and temperatures will get to the 60s. Later into the evening, though, clouds are starting to increase, and we may get a quick shower Friday night. So tomorrow night shouldn't be a big deal, but in the river valley, we'll start next to freezing, and we'll clear on out. I do want to show you this, and then we'll wrap things up. Clear skies overnight tonight. Tomorrow morning, as you're waking up, headed to school, headed to work. Beautiful morning. Be cold. By lunchtime, we should hit some 50s, and then later into the afternoon, some 60s. Here's 8:30. A quick disturbance is coming in from the west. To be honest, I don't think we have to worry about this as much. We're not under any kind of severe threat with this. And look at temperatures. We're in the 40s and 50s. It's very hard to get good severe weather when you're that cold. So I think we're going to be okay. Some of these complexes, though, especially south, I think the actual center of rotation, the low pressure itself, should be coming in northwest Arkansas. Farther south of it, there could be a few rumbles of thunder, mainly in the river valley. And then I think we're good. By the time we're waking up Saturday morning, there may still be some clouds, but we'll kick them on out of here. We'll have a beautiful day Saturday. We'll still get in the 60s, 70s on Sunday. Next week starts to look active again. Of course, you can always go to our website. We've got that 7-day forecast there. It's constantly updating. In the river valley, we'll have 60s tomorrow. Rain showers come in later, probably after 9, 10 o'clock, so after sunset. They'll be here Friday night, maybe a little bit Saturday morning when we're waking up, and then I think we're good. The weekend looks awesome. So if you want to go through that visualization tool again, we've got it on our website. We've got a video there. I believe now we have a YouTube video there as well. But hopefully that gave you a good idea on where that tornado was, where it tracked, how big it was, how strong it was at different points, and just how it evolved. You know, tornadoes, it's not just an EF-3 the whole time. In history, we'll look back and EF-3, and it was, but you always pick the highest rating that it had, and then you basically say, well, this was an EF-3, right? But when we really go through the data, of course, it's not always going to be an EF-3 at every single point and how it evolved. So if you want to take another look at this, we've got a YouTube video, I believe, ready for you guys as it marched from Razorback Cinema, the Malco there on the north side of Fayetteville, all the way to the Springdale Airport and Emma Avenue. We've got more severe weather chances next week. Of course, we'll always keep you advised, make sure you keep it local, and we'll keep you updated on whenever we have chances for that severe weather. All right, you guys have a great evening. Stay warm, 20s and 30s tonight.